with the collar like a dog. Suddenly Lenny's eyes centered and grew quiet and mad. He stood up and walked dangerously toward Crooks. "Who hurt George?" he demanded. Crooks saw the danger as it approached him. He edged back on his bunk to get out of the way. "I was just supposing," he said. "George ain't hurt. He's all right. He'll be back all right." Lenny stood over him. "What you supposin' for? Ain't nobody gonna to suppose no hurt to George." Crooks removed his glasses and wiped his eyes with his fingers. "Just sit down," he said. "George ain't hurt." Lenny growled back to a seat on the nail keg. "Ain't nobody going to talk no hurt to George," he grumbled. So Crooks here has seen his advantage over Lenny, and he's really given him a hard time and kind of attacking him, like I said, but it backfired. So now he's going to have to de-escalate the situation, which he's starting to do. Crooks said gently, "Maybe you can see now. You got George. You know he's going to come back. Suppose you didn't have nobody. Suppose you couldn't go into the bunkhouse and play rummy because you was black. How'd you like that? Suppose you had to sit out here and read books. Sure, you could play horseshoes till it got dark, but then you got to read books. Books ain't no good. A guy needs somebody to be near him," he whined. "A guy goes nuts if he ain't got nobody. Don't make no difference who the guy is, long he's with you, I tell ya," he cried. "I tell ya, a guy gets too lonely and he gets sick." So this is Crooks. He's kind of trying to get Lenny to empathize with him, to understand that he goes crazy without anybody with him. And at least Lenny has George, even if he doesn't really understand. "George gonna come back," Lenny reassured himself in a frightened voice. "Maybe George come back already. Maybe I better go see." So you can see this just goes right over Lenny's head. He has no idea what's going on. Bless his heart. Crooks said, "I didn't mean to scare you. He'll come back. I was talking about myself. A guy sits alone out here at night, maybe reading books or thinking or stuff like that. Sometimes he gets thinking and he got nothing to tell him what's so and what ain't so. Maybe if he sees something, he don't know whether it's right or not. He can't turn to some other guy and ask him if he sees it too. He can't tell. He got nothing to measure by. I've seen things out here. I wasn't drunk. I don't know if I was asleep. If some guy was with me, he could tell me I was asleep, and then it would be all right. But I just don't know." Crooks was looking across the room now, looking toward the window. Lenny said miserably, "George won't go away and leave me. I know George won't do that." The stable buck went on dreamily. "I remember when I was a little kid on my old man's chicken ranch. Had 2 brothers. They was always near me, always there. Used to sleep right in the same room, right in the same bed, all 3. Had a strawberry patch. Had an alfalfa patch. Used to turn the chickens out in the alfalfa on a Sunday morning. My brothers sit on a fence rail and watch 'em. White chickens they was." Gradually Lenny's interest came around to what was being said. "George says we're going to have alfalfa for the rabbits." "What rabbits?" "We're going to have rabbits and a berry patch." "You're nuts." "We are too. You ask George." "You're nuts." Crooks was scornful. "I've seen hundreds of men come by on the road and on the ranches with their bindles on their back and that same damn thing in their heads. Hundreds of 'em. They come and they quit and go on, and every damn one of 'em's got a little piece of land in his head, and never a goddamn one of 'em ever gets it. Just like heaven. Everybody wants a little piece of land. I read plenty of books out here. Nobody never gets to heaven, and nobody gets no land. It's just in their head. They're all the time talking about it, but it's just in their head." He paused and looked toward the open door, for the horses were moving restlessly and the halter chains clinked. A horse whinnied. "I guess somebody's out there," Crooks said. "Maybe Slim. Slim comes in sometimes, 2-3 times a night. Slim's a real skinner. He looks out for his team." He pulled himself painfully upright and moved toward the door. "That you, Slim?" he called. Notice once again that this gives us more characterization about Slim. So he's very, very respected, and Crooks even respects him, which says a lot. Candy's voice answered, "Slim went in town. Say, you seen Lenny?" "You mean the big guy?" "Yeah. Seen him around any place?" "He's in here," Crooks said shortly. He went back to his bunk and lay down. Candy stood in the doorway, scratching his bald wrist and looking blindly into the lighted room. He made no attempt to enter. Tell you what, Lenny, I've been figuring out about them rabbits, Crooks said irritably. You can come in if you want. Candy seemed embarrassed. I don't know. Of course, if you want me to, come on in. If everybody's coming in, you might just as well. It was difficult for Crooks to conceal his pleasure with anger. So here, this little piece in the narration tells you that Crooks is actually so excited because people are actually in his bunk, and that's never happened before. Not to just socialize, at least. And but he's trying to conceal it with anger. Candy came in. He was still embarrassed. You got a nice, cozy little place in here, he said to Crooks. Must be nice to have a room all to yourself this way. Sure, said Crooks, and a manure pile under the window. Sure, it's swell. Notice the sarcasm. Lenny broke in. You said about them rabbits. Candy leaned against the wall beside the broken collar while he scratched the wrist stump. I've been here a long time, he said, and Crooks been here a long time. This is the first time I ever been in his room. So the first time that he's ever been in there this whole time. Think about that. Crooks said darkly, guys don't come in a colored man's room very much. Nobody been here but Slim. Slim and the boss. Candy quickly changed the subject. Slim's as good a skinner as I ever seen. Lenny leaned toward the old swamper. About them rabbits, he insisted. Candy smiled. I got it figured out. We can make some money on them rabbits if we go about it right. But I get to tend 'em, Lenny broke in. George says I get to tend 'em. He promised. Crooks interrupted brutally. You guys is just kidding yourself. You'll talk about it a hell of a lot, but you won't get no land. You'll be a swamper here till they take you out in a box. Hell, I've seen too many guys. Lenny here'll quit and be on the road in 2-3 weeks. Seems like every guy got land in his head. Candy rubbed his cheek angrily. You goddamn right we're going to do it. George says we are. We got the money right now. Yeah? Said Crooks. And where's George now? In town in a whorehouse. That's where your money's going. Jesus, I've seen it happen too many times. I've seen too many guys land in their head. They never get none under their hand. Candy cried. Sure, they all want it. Everybody wants a little bit of land, not much. Just something that was his. Something he could live on, and there couldn't nobody throw him off of it. I never had none. I planted crops for damn near everybody in the state, but they wasn't my crops. And when I harvested them, it wasn't none of my harvest. But we gonna do it now. And don't make no mistake about that. George ain't got the money in town. That money's in the bank. Me and Lenny and George. We gonna have a room to ourselves. We're gonna have a dog and rabbits and chickens. We're gonna have green corn and maybe a cow or a goat. He stopped, overwhelmed with his picture. Just think how passionate he is. He's so excited that it's actually gonna start coming true. Crooks asked, you say you got the money? Damn right, we got most of it, just a little bit more to get. Have it all in 1 month. George got the land all picked out, too. Crooks reached around and explored his spine with his hand. I never seen a guy really do it, he said. I seen guys nearly crazy with loneliness for land, but every time a whorehouse or blackjack came, took what it takes. He hesitated. If you guys would want a hand to work for nothing, just as keep, why, I'd come and lend a hand. I ain't so crippled I can't work like a son of a bitch if I want to. Any boys seen Curly? Okay, so here, Crooks finally starts to understand. He understands the story, and he realizes that they're going to do it. They have the money, and they're only working a month. And he's like, hey, that might not be so bad. You don't have to pay me. I'll just work to stay there. So that's something that he's turned around. He's turned his story. He's not angry anymore. So something to think about. And notice it says crazy with loneliness for land. Loneliness is definitely one of the themes of Mice and Men. How lonely everybody is in here. So at the end of 76, Curly's wife walks in. So think about if this is the outcast chapter, who do we have? We have Crooks, who's the African American, and he's crippled, he's disabled. We have Lenny, who has a mental disability. And then we have Candy, who is elderly and disabled. And then we have Curly's wife, the only woman. Okay, so all 4 of these are outcast. Everybody else went to town, and these are the 4 that are left on the ranch. They are outcast from the community on the ranch. They're not included. It's like everybody else went to a party and they weren't invited. So when we pick up next time, we will finish reading. We're about halfway, and a lot happens, so we can look forward to that. All right, see you guys. Oh, don't forget to answer your questions, okay? You may bullet.